Hi, my name is Ben Allen. I'm the principal of Allen CIO, and today's leadership interview is going to be focused on Matthew Pohl, the principal of the ReWild Group. Matthew, welcome.
Thanks, Ben. Good to be here with you.
Matt, I've known you for a few years now. Your company utilizes a business strategy called the 7 stages of growth, which are near and dear to my heart. They're something that allow a business to really make a huge difference in regards to how they accommodate growth in the company. And today I'd like you to share with all of us a little bit more about the 7 stages of growth.
The stages of growth is a unique methodology, business growth methodology that's based on over 30 years of observation and research of small and mid-sized businesses. And during those years of research, what was identified is that businesses either grow or fail to grow as they go through 7 specific stages of growth based on their ability and willingness to really be aligned with the rules of growth. So what this methodology shows is that there are 7 specific stages, and these stages are not based on revenue or age of the business, but it's based on the complexity within the organization. And that complexity is driven by the number of employees within that company. So by knowing how many employees are in your business, you can know what stage you're in. And then once you know your stage, you can look down and see what the rules are for that particular stage of growth. And this methodology is very powerful in that it provides 3 key things. It allows you to diagnose where you are, so to see where you are within this framework. It prescribes what you need to do. So where there are misalignments, it allows you to have specific action items, things to go and do so that you're in better alignment. And what's maybe the most powerful thing is that it's predictive. It actually foretells what you're going to be going through next. So as your business is growing, instead of kind of being surprised by that new season of the business, you actually can be anticipating that and being proactive in preparing for that next stage of growth. So that's essentially the overview of the stages of growth methodology.
Do you find that it only applies to certain types of businesses?
One of the great things is that the research really spanned dozens of industries and really the entire U.S. So it's very independent of the leader or the industry or the geographic location. So it's not geographically focused. So it's very universal in its in what it shows and what it identifies. So that's one of the great things. It's really dealing with foundational principles of business, and that's what allows it not to be just focused on one particular industry.
And so you're saying about foundational principles of the business. I think what I understood is that a leader, do they need to pivot as far as their skills go in changing depending on the different stage of growth that they're in?
My experience is that business leaders, if they know what they need to do, they'll find a way to get there. And so a big part of this is providing a roadmap for business leaders to know where they do need to pivot. The analogy we sometimes use is, the parenting skills that worked on a toddler, where you have tremendous success with that age of your children, may not work when they get to be teenagers. And the same thing applies to businesses. If you're a 15-person organization, there are different rules to be successfully growing at that level of complexity versus if you have 100 employees. And we kind of know that as business leaders, but we don't necessarily know what specific things change, the rules that have changed between 11 and 30 employees. The rules have totally changed, but you're kind of left to try to figure that out. I guess it's kind of like being, parenting your first kid. You're kind of just kind of figuring out. But that's what's nice about the stage of growth, is it actually shows you when the rules are changing, and when you're within some level of complexity, that stage, what the rules of growth actually are. So again, you can anticipate that change is coming, but you actually know what change that actually is going to come as well, not just generically that there's change coming.
So you're saying that each stage is specific to the number of employees in the business, and there's 7 stages. Is that correct?
Right. So, for example, stage 1 is from 1 employee to 10 employees, and it goes on up through 7 different ranges of employees. And what the research showed, oftentimes within industries, within other kinds of ways of categorizing businesses, we focus on the revenue side of things, right? So I'm a $10 million business, I'm a $50 million business, I'm a $1 million business. But revenue is not as directly correlated with the rules, because the rules are based on complexity within the organization. And the reality is that a retail store that's doing 10 million versus a construction company that's doing 10 million versus a professional services company that's doing 10 million. Those 3 businesses, how they price things, their margins, all those things are quite different. And so just looking at revenue is not as good of an indicator of the complexity in the organization. That's why the stages of growth methodology focuses on the number of people. It's as you add more individuals, more human beings to your organization, that's where complexity expands. And it's the level of complexity that determines the rules.
So we spoke a little bit before this about the fact that those different stages, one of them, stage 5 has to do with employees that are kind of between the high 50s up to the high 90s. And in that particular area, I'm curious from you, that what I'm understanding from you is that if you're in that particular stage, one of the things that you might notice is some fairly severe chaos that would help drive the fact that if you knew that stage better, you would be able to get out of that. Can we speak to the chaotic aspect of that particular stage, some learning points that you could share with us as far as identifying aspects that you could help address at that size of a company?
Yeah, so stage 5 is called the integration stage. And sometimes when you look at one stage, it's helpful to look at the stages around it, so you kind of see the transition between them. So stage 5, like you said, is from 58 to 95 employees. It's called integration. It's called integration because the prior stage, stage 4, is called professional. The professional stage, stage 4, is where the organization needs to be building a professional management team, getting managers, professional managers, trained managers in place for every department within the organization, so that those departments are operating in a healthy way, that they're strong departments. That's really what you're trying to build out, is this departmental structure. That's in stage 4. Stage 5 is called integration. Integration stage is where those individual departments now need to be integrated. And part of that is developing a leadership team, not just the heads of the departments, but folks above that. They might be directors or VPs or C-level even, but you're getting this layer of leadership that is looking past or beyond just a single department. So you're integrating them into really working together for a whole organization, those individual departments. In stage 6, we get to the strategic stage. And by the time you get to stage 6, you need a very strong leadership team layer within the organization that is really taking on most of the day-to-day responsibilities for the organization. the CEO, the owner, whatever that person is at the top, that person is no longer running the day-to-day. They're really managing this leadership team, and then the leadership team is really managing the day-to-day of the departments. So you can see that in stage 4, you need to be putting in these strong management team to run departments. Stage 5 is integration, where those departments now turn into a more cohesive whole. In stage 6, you now have a leadership team that is taking on more of the responsibilities for the organization. A lot of times we'll find organizations that we're working with, they may be at stage 6, but they haven't taken care of stage 4 and stage 5. So they're playing catch up as far as getting the management team and leadership team in place. And that causes them to stagnate, sometimes even pull back, because they just don't have the structures in place to sustain the level of complexity that they've grown into. And like I said, sometimes that causes them to pull back to earlier stages because they can't sustain that level of complexity as an organization.
I like what I'm hearing. It's exciting because what I understand is that it's partially a playbook. It's a playbook that there are certain things that you need to adhere to get the success that you're really hoping for. And I know your organization owns the 7 stages of growth, and you have coaches literally around the world who are helping to implement this. I'd like to finish off with the fact that on July 15th, you have an event that you're putting together for leaders. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. We call it ReWild Your Business. So our company is called ReWild Group. Our methodology is called organizational rewilding. And there's a great story on our website that explains where that unique term comes from. But we have a ReWild Your Business webinar coming up July 15th. And this is actually a quarterly event. So each webinar drills down into a different topic, but business owners and leaders can learn more about stages of growth during that webinar, but more than what they've learned today in our conversation. We go into more details, but then we drill down into one aspect very deeply and very practically. And so the business owner, the business leader, they will come away with learning some aspect, some dimension of the stages of growth in more detail that they can go and apply to their business immediately. And so each of the webinars, like I said, will cover a different topic, but they can register. There's no charge to register and participate in that webinar. So that's what we have coming up in July.
Matt, wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today. And to everyone out there, if you have a leadership topic that you would like to share with us, please don't hesitate to contact me. Love to have you on the show. Thanks and have a great day.